It's kind of funny. I was getting a hard time from the recording program there. It can sometimes be a little quirky, but since it didn't cost me anything, I can't really complain, can I? Anyway, this is where we're at currently with Baccarat Win Pro and a couple of hundred BNB shoes, a few others thrown in for good measure, some from Brandon O'Brien on his channel. He drives me a little bit potty because he does this silly thing of chasing after the win every time, so he just follows the winner, and that really is a bad plan. But it's working for him right now, so what can I say? But anyway, we're now at 49,239 rounds, as you can see. Total number of shoes, it's from 572 to 1,044 is the number of Baccarat Win Pro, or 573 actually, no, 572 to 1044 Baccarat Win Pro, and as I said, plus a couple of hundred from BNB, which is a really useful source of real shoes. Some from Brandon, some from here and there. My friend in California, various others, but none of them interfered with by me, none of them messed with. The overall banker advantage for the 49,000 plus is pretty much, according to textbooks, minus 1.36 or minus 1.4%, which is, that's not terrible, that's about right. With the hop applied, that vanishes and becomes a player positive 0.74%. And as you can see, the win right now is 2.362 million, 2.4 million, which is, okay, it's fantasy stuff, I get that. But what this is supposed to do is to simply indicate what happens if you stick with the numbers, if you apply accurate parameters and consistent parameters over a long period of time. What you get, according to, and of course it's all in pounds here because I live in Poundland, so I tend to think in terms of pounds rather than dollars. I'm very happy with dollars too when I get them, but not enough coming in these days. Anyway, it adds up to roughly 4,750 pounds per hour over the God knows how many shoes. It must be about 900 shoes, I would say, total. 572, maybe 750 shoes. So at 99 bets per hour, which is okay, that's about right, 4,749, and obviously if you reduce the number of bets to say 70, then that goes down. I don't know if it'll do it for me. Yeah, it drops to 3,350, 3,360, but you get the general picture. I mean, it's there is just no doubt that this is the way to go. But I will always have people saying, no, that can't be true, that can't be right. And there's nothing I can do about that. There are people who just, they don't want to see what they're paid to ignore. Bets get very high sometimes. The gag rule has not been applied in this particular version of, when I say version, I mean presentation of basically the same data every time. It's always going to be the same. It's going to be the same outcomes, but what differs from time to time is the parameters that are applied. And here what we have is we got 25 minimum, a huge max of 250,000. There were actually 14 maximum bets along the way. which is crazy. I get that. I completely get that. But the whole point of what I've been doing for all these years is to try and just put out the message that if you try and take on the casinos with less money than they have, within reason, I mean, not bazillions, I mean, collectively, all the casinos in Las Vegas, for instance, probably have at any given point at least $500 million on the tables, spread throughout their joints. The rules are supposed to be, I think, that they have to have enough money available in chips on the floor to cover all eventualities. So they tend to sort of, like, they do the numbers, they run the risk assessment and all the rest of it, and they say, well, it's unlikely that any one customer playing is going to win more than X amount, so we'll multiply that by the number of people in the house at a given time. And I don't know what they do exactly, and I don't actually give a shit. What I know is that they always have a lot more money than any individual player has, and any player who tries to take on these games of chance will fail if they don't have a monster bankroll behind them. Now, I set the bust point at, I think, 750,000 in this model. Very high, I know, but well within the reach of a lot of high rollers who throw their money away as if because they're rich they're bulletproof. They're not. I mean, people like Kerry Packard, long dead now, but I mean, he used to play $250,000 on each of 6 slots on a blackjack table, and of course he lost. He lost countless millions, but they only ever announced when Kerry Packer won 15 million last night at the MGM or whatever. They made a big fuss about it. They talked about how he had generously paid off one cocktail waitress's mortgage, tipped another dealer 100,000, did whatever, and all of that is just just fun and games, fireworks. They would never announce Kerry Packer, the Australian billionaire, last night dropped 100 million at the MGM Grand. They're not going to announce that, but they will announce his big wins. And it's all a con game, and everything that the casinos do is about, sort of conning their customers. Doesn't matter what it is, the rules of the games, the new games that they bring in, the variations that they bring in, they're all BS. And I'm not completely anti-gambling. What I am is anti-lies. And it's one of the reasons why I think that with these gambling channels on YouTube, they should be required, these guys who are playing all the time, should be required to show their wins and losses to date in full. Every single video that they put on YouTube should have that information there. Okay, so we bet X amount, we lost X amount, and let's move on. The only one who takes the trouble to say how much he's won and lost with a degree of transparency is Vegas Matt Morrow. And he loses a shitload, that's for sure. Nobody can beat slot machines, there's just no doubt about that. They cannot be beaten. They have a house edge of somewhere around 8 to 10%, and there's no way that Vegas Matt has a magic wand that can enable him to get around that. So whatever his total action is, that's what he's losing. And the same applies obviously to Brian Christopher and to who's the other big guy. When I say who's the other big guy, I'm talking to myself, because of course I know perfectly well who he is. Jason Balky, Mr. Handpay, who's lagging behind. Not so much Brian Christopher, but certainly lagging behind Vegas Matt in the number of subscribers that he has. And I think that's because Vegas Matt is collecting a lot through FanDuel, which is the deal that he did with an online gambling operation, and that will have covered his losses, I would imagine. He probably can't lose if he's playing actually on FanDuel. I don't know what the details are, sorry, or what the deal is. It's none of my business, and you know, good luck. But something fishy is going on with all of these guys on YouTube, because they're losing a fortune, you know. So they must be getting their money back from Google or from somewhere, because they're certainly not bending over, surely, and actually handing over this kind of money. The people that I worry about are the small potatoes guys like Bluffin' Bob, Bobby Rivas. You know, I mean, he's just going to lose all his money if he keeps doing what he's doing. Anyway, let's just have a look. What you see here, for several of these things I put in ups and downs, which is to just demonstrate the existence of these win-loss patterns. Excuse me, now I've got hiccups. You know, and probably 100 or more shoes have got that in there, and then after a while I thought, wait a minute, you know, this is a bloody waste of time, because it's clear from a couple of them what the story is. You know, I mean, any one of these things you look at and you can see why pattern betting with down and out as its primary rule. Sorry, did I say down and out? Down and out is an essential rule, but what I'm trying to say is double or drop. Down and out is absolutely vital. You have to know how much you're down, and you have to tailor your out, which is the value of your next bet, as close as you possibly can to a potential turnaround, knowing that every single bet that you place faces a negative expectation, which is at least that red number up at the top in H4, minus 1.36%. Every single bet faces that negative expectation. In other words, it is more likely to lose than to win. Keep that in mind at all times. I mean, unless you have divine support, you are not going to be able to overcome that simple fact. What we're doing is merely saying, okay, look at this one. I mean, this is one where it was kind of ridiculous, really. I mean, look at all the greens here compared to the reds. That happens sometimes. But each one of these up and down deals here, these little charts, tells the same story. It's basically saying to you, come on people, trust patterns, ups and downs. Look at that. I mean, look at it. Any of these red patterns here would defeat somebody like Bobby or like Jason or Matt or any of these guys. The only slot player that I have a quarrel with is Brian Christopher, because he claimed at the end of last year that he'd made 200,000 clear profit that year, and suggested that he'd made it at slots. He may have made 200,000 profit overall with his various deals, with his income from Google or from YouTube, which is the same difference, and his sponsorship things. He may well have. I would have guessed that he'd make a lot more than 200,000 in a year, actually, with the number of sponsorships that he has and the size of his audience. But you know, what do I know? Anyway, that's where we're at currently, at 49,239 baccarat rounds, and at some point I'll go and get the shoe 1 to 571 and drop that into another one of these so that you can see what's going on. But basically, if you can't accept that 49,239 outcomes is a representative sample of what will happen when you play baccarat, well then I'm sorry, there's no talking to you, because that's ridiculous. You know, if you can't be satisfied with the data that you get from 10,000 outcomes, never mind 50,000, which is where we're nearly at, then you obviously have a problem with numbers and with understanding simple logic and arithmetic and those other things that are very important to a full understanding of what you face every time you place a bet. Oh, and one thing I should stress here is because I've been playing the hop, sometimes I have to pay commission, right? Commission is actually 13% of the total win. This number over here includes, this is the win from top to bottom minus that commission number there. If you look at the formula here, it says the sum of L8 to L84,500 plus S6, which is this number, this negative number over here. So that is a net outcome here, not gross, net. And net is 11.5%. What we actually saw was a slight advantage of 0.75%, and we turned that into plus 11.5%. So I think, this is something to keep in mind. You don't have to pay any attention if you don't want to. Nobody has to pay any attention. Everybody can say it's absolute bollocks. I don't care. All I can tell you is it is obsessively accurate. I am ridiculously sort of, what is the word? Obsessed with making sure that I get my numbers right. And that's all I can tell you. So next time, folks, bye-bye.